right. Welcome to Trust the Journey. I'm Melanie Curtis.
And I'm Jason Malinsky.
Our mission is to live, laugh, love, and learn together with you.
We're here to create conscious connections, to grow and to contribute through our practice of openness, honesty, vulnerability, humility, and trust. Trusting the entire journey.
Yes. Team, family, everybody, first-time listener, whomever is hearing this, if you'd like to join us on the wider internet, by all means, join us. We are at trustthejourney.today. That's our website or Instagram. And if you'd like to join our Trust the Journey family, where we expand the dialogue and support each other and love each other and all of those good things, please do so. That you scroll down on the website all the way down, and there's a button where you can donate on Patreon. Any amount will get you into the Trust the Journey family, $1, whatever. We just want to invite people to join us. So yeah, that's it, fam. Let's dive in and do this thing.
So today is our 2-year anniversary episode.
Woo!
Two.
Oh my God.
2.
I can't even believe that.
That flew by.
I can't even believe that's true.
I know.
I'm amazed in a really cool way. We're toddlers now. We can like walk on wobbly legs as podcasters.
Exactly.
That's exactly how I feel. Oh my God.
I found that to be a very accurate description of, the maturity level within our, experience that we've accrued over the last 2 years.
I know. It's true. It's true. I think that humility, is actually a big deal relative to growing in any medium or in any skill set. And I definitely feel that, it's not just like, oh, we're humble as fuck as podcasters. It's more like, no, we just are, because shit, this is no joke. And that's the thing. I posted that on Facebook sharing yesterday. Yesterday was the actual 2-year anniversary day, and it's awesome that we are recording today to reflect on it. But yeah, I wrote that, and how publishing an episode, aka recording, editing, learning how to do it, publishing every 2 weeks for 2 years is no joke. Like that is no joke. I'm extremely proud of us for doing that.
Me too.
Yeah, it takes something to do that.
I feel like when we started off, we really didn't have any plan as to what we were going to do. It was very much just, we're going to see what happens. We're going to start talking, and we're going to start rolling, and we're going to roll tape, and we're going to see what we end up recording. And the intention wasn't even to put it to air. It was just for us to record what we were saying so that we could have a recording of it. And as that matured, and we're like, hey, we actually should just release our conversations so that we're opening our conversation, so that we're inviting others into the conversation, so that we're expanding our circles. And so that then, and the development of the concept of our show is built around that. Our whole motto, our mission is built around wanting to, like, hey, what do we want to do here? What is this all about? Why are we even choosing to do something that engages the public space,
right,
steps up on a soapbox, or says, hey, let's talk, And I'm pretty stoked about it. I feel like the response that we've had so far from our listeners, from the feedback that I've received, has been extremely positive. And there's nothing but gratitude and community forming around the concept of opening the conversation, sharing, being vulnerable, being humble, all the things we say, we meet. Yeah.
Actually doing it, living into it. And that's the thing, I think I feel like it's a really important piece of leadership to share your humanity. Like, you're a world champion, for God's sakes. Like, I don't, I could say a million things about myself, but, like, we've done big things, in spaces that could be put on pedestals, that are put on pedestals, writing books and all the things.
Yeah.
And it's so important to me to consistently be sharing my humanity, like our humanity, so that people that have goals and dreams that maybe have one of us on a pedestal or something like that can listen and go, oh, they're just people, they struggle too. They are afraid too. They cry too. They don't know what they're fucking doing too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so that goes back to my very first share about 2 years publishing is no joke. It's not just from the like, yay, we know how to do the tech and we know how to do the thing. And when we consistently follow through on something, when we don't know what the fuck we're doing, when we are uncertain, when we feel afraid, when we're overwhelmed, when we are, all of those things, that I think really critically teaches us what we are capable of doing. So when we find ourselves facing challenge in other areas of life, it's like, I can do hard things. I can show up and be, and not to say that, I mean, this space is a little bit unique in the sense too, because another thing that I wrote down to reflect on is how healthy and healing this space is for me personally, like how I get to talk to my friend and he gets to support me and I get to be supported by him, that really serves me as a person. You know what I mean? It just so happens that we're also sharing it in a public space. But so that makes it theoretically a little bit, quote unquote, easier to show up. But it's easy to not show up unless you have that real ferocious commitment to doing so. And for me, at least, a belief in what that consistent follow through and that consistency in showing up and building friendship and building relationship and building something out of nothing, what that can actually deliver us.
It's the 10,000 times or 10 years to mastery.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. 10,000 hours.
10,000 hours, 10,000 practices, 10,000 years.
Yep.
Yeah. It's that whole ideology of you just have to keep doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it. And I feel like, at least for myself, and I think I can speak on your behalf here with a fair bit of confidence, the bigger reason for wanting to practice, to have a schedule, ritualized, committed, unwavering practice of showing up to speak, showing up to share, showing up to be present, showing up to listen. That this practice is very spiritual, and it's something that if we want to have a voice in the world that has any weight behind it, a voice that can be trusted, a voice that is known, a voice that can be respected, and an ear to be able to be shared to as well, to be able to have the trust received from others that this is somebody who I can feel safe, creates a safe space for me to be able to share into, is what we're practicing. And that's in order to be able to create lives for ourselves that allow us to reach and connect more people.
Absolutely. 100%. 1,000,000%. I magnify, double echo, super invite. Yeah. No, yes. 100%.
No,
100%.
no, yes.
No, yes. Like all of that. Yes. And I'll tell you, the way that shows up for me is I can feel it. I can feel it in myself when I am out in the world, stepping on a stage of some version of a stage, quote unquote, AKA speaking publicly, whether it is in a public speaking scenario, whether it is with a new person, whether it just really just stepping into my voice in literally any form, I can feel how this practice And being in dialogue with you in this space for the purpose upon which this space is built absolutely serves me in the rest of the world, in the rest of my work as well. And I'm so thankful for that, because that's making and helping me and us have more impact, positive impact in this world and with other people. I'm so fucking fired up about that. It really, really is real.
Yeah. I would like to kind of turn things around to the listener for a second and reflect outwardly towards everybody in the audience space who has taken the time to push play even once, to listen and to take the time to open up some of their most precious commodity, which is their time, and allow us to share some of that. And for me, I have just massive gratitude for anybody who, if you've come even once, or if you come back over and over and over again, it makes no difference to me. I'm so grateful to everybody who chooses to say, let's hear what Mel and Jay have to say and what they want to share and what they're about. And for those of you who choose to continue to engage even further by joining the family, oh my God, I'm just so grateful for that collective space that we're all curating together, and for that family that exists because of the people who have chosen into it. That chosen family is just so powerful. So thank you to you, Mel, and to our audience, and to everybody who supports us in this project. And I'm incredibly grateful for the safety of this space for myself. As we said, we've had our mutual therapy sessions on the show here. We're like, hey, let's just talk a little and
Right.
get through
I need some
life
help today. Yeah.
Yeah. A little sharing is good, right?
Yeah.
Actually, sharing is all there is. It's fantastic. So huge ups to everybody. Thank you for all our listeners. Thank you for everybody. It sounds like at the wrap of the show, because that's what we say every time. And it's, again, I'll just reinforce that gratitude is not a script in any way.
No.
There's no script in there. This is truly, we love you. We are so grateful when you take the time to listen. And if you're listening to me speak on this moment right now, this I love you is for you specifically.
Oh, that brought some tears to my eyes, because I know it's so true. I know it's real. It's real. It really is it's amazing. And for those listening, I agree. And I echo those feelings. I say that a lot. To people, I know this might sound weird, but I love you, that type of thing. But it's true. There's a piece of me that really deeply believes in that. We are all one. We are all connected. I love each person. I may not invite them close to me in my life physically, emotionally, but I still love you all, love everyone. What was I going to say? Oh, back to the listening piece too, is I feel like, interestingly, as a life coach, I get a lot of opportunity to listen, because I sit on phone calls with people who get to share into that safe, trusted space. And I feel like in this space, I have learned so much more about being a better listener, because this is a space where I get to share about myself, where I get to talk about my thoughts and opinions. And it's not that I don't share that in the life coaching space, but that space is very critically held for the other. And so it's a different dynamic than this. And so that's been a cool learning growth process for me. I feel like I remember when we first were starting, I would, want to interject, and I would be listening to say my next thing because I had this really great thought to add to Jay's thought. And I definitely still do that, and I also definitely now have consciousness to not interjecting, to really being patient and bringing true presence to listening to you. And that has helped me a lot. And I'm grateful for that as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, same here. I've learned so much about listening, and listening is truly the art of conversation is based in becoming a powerful listener, right? Learning how to truly absorb what's being shared, be able to allow it to swirl around inside of our minds and actually become our thoughts rather than just superimposing our own thoughts onto whatever else somebody's sharing all the time. One of the things that's helped me a lot to learn how to do that is exactly what I did just now as you were speaking. And I had a bubble of thought occurred, something I want to share. And instead of just pushing it to the front of my mind, I just notated it quickly, a little scribble shorthand note. Now it's out of my thoughts. And now it's on the paper and it's there for when or if the time arises for that to be able to be included. But I'm able to be back on page with Mel and her share. Thank you. Because I unloaded my own ego, which bubbled to the surface.
It's so funny how that happens.
Isn't it?
It's like all the time.
Yeah. But the thing that's challenging with this environment especially is we're here to be conversationalists, right? Like the whole point is to speak. And so there's an irony between learning to listen when you're somewhere where you're supposed to be talking.
I just had a vision of us just sitting here on Zoom, people who are only listening on the podcast, people who are watching on YouTube would see it. But I just had this vision of us being like, just looking at each other, nodding. Just like having a connected moment, and the podcast listeners. Yeah, I know it does, but I'm like, it's just so comical to me, the idea of like, and like no audio.
I like the silent moments. I think it's very pure and honest when we get the little moments in between thoughts or when you're actually processing. One of my favorite quotes is, and I wish I could attribute correctly where it comes from, but my first wife Tucci is the one who shared it with me, and she says music, the silence is as important as the note, right? Yes. So those pauses, those silences in between what's being shared are equally valuable. Yeah, whether it's in conversation or whether it's in music, that time to just kind of let it simmer, let your tea steep, per se, Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. I mean, everything. my useful reflections back. Yep. 100%. Totally agree.
So for our listening audience today, rather than our viewing audience, will see that I've showed up very colorfully today. I brought a gift that a friend gave me yesterday, which is this nice bandana. Nice. And I decided to sport it based on the honoring the idea of always being a student and always being a warrior and showing up to practice. And there was a thought in my mind that came up, which was to do with the Karate Kid. Right? The classic movie of Mr. Miyagi and the Karate Kid who wants to learn, and the old teacher who will teach him, but he has to do it his way, so that there's this patience that's required and there's this practice that's required. And, the Karate Kid's got his little headband, so he's like doing his, preparation by him donning his sweaty headband for his practice. And I've been using the analogies from the Karate Kid my whole career as an athlete, both as the being on the training side of it, as the athletic side of it, and as a coach being on the Mr. Miyagi side of it, as the one who knows the secrets and sharing them with younger others who want to learn. And I love the dichotomy of how that role is continually in both places, where we all have that mastery deep down inside of us that has the eternal knowing, that wise, aged wisdom that lives in our gut, that just knows the right way to do things. And we all have that childish, juvenile, adolescent eagerness to want to perform well at something, or to have a skill, have acquired and reached a level, to have attained to that, like that getting somewhere, achieving something kind of expression. And the beauty of that is the duality, that we're always on both sides of the story. We're always trying to aspire, and we already actually know. If you know about me, you know I love polarity. I love the black and white and everything in between concept. So I wanted to embody that with this whole thing.
I was just going to say, like, the visual of you absolutely embodies that today. It's beautiful.
That's what I was going for.
It's totally beautiful. Yeah, for peeps listening, it's like this amazing mandala, rainbow, beautiful.
Sacred geometry
behind Jay. He's rocking the Trust the Journey shirt and the black and white headband. It's perfect. It's perfect.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, what's funny is that for some reason today, I was like, I just kind of want to wear a, special shirt too, even though comically I didn't choose the Trust the Journey shirt. I chose my New York shirt, which you can't really see, but I have a New York shirt. But the necklace that I put on is from my friend Pam. And it's this beautiful beads and, I don't even know what these are called, but I love it. And she got this for me. It was just a thoughtful present, but basically why I bring Pam up is that Pam and I preceded Trust the Journey in that we were doing sort of a YouTube-y show thing with the same premise of Trust the Journey, where we would get on Zoom and we would record our conversations, because she is a deeply spiritual person, also fierce and amazing in entrepreneurship and creating from nothing and collaborating with aligned partners. She's really, really, really powerful force in the world for good. And so I'm so thankful for her as my friend. But what I'm just now sort of thinking about is how that work that we did together, just again, throwing paint on the wall with each other, helped to support me and us into this format, because it's a really great format. And that space for conversation and the sharing of conversation and the intention for those conversations to be of value to both the people in it and the people listening. So anyway, I just wanted to give my friend Pam a shout out, and I didn't realize why I put this on this morning, but now I know.
So that necklace it's a Buddhist mala, a prayer necklace, and it's got 108 beads on it, and each one of them should be held for a meditation and a prayer, much like the Christian rosary, right? And so it's that same spiritual repetitive practice of moving through something over and over and over again without any real intention of like trying to perfect it. It's really just the process of continuing to do it and dedicating time to it. So there's some beautiful irony in that practice as well.
I love that. Oh my God. Yeah,
I also have one of those that was gifted to me by a good friend, and I absolutely adore it. It's one of my favoriteest things to wear. And every time I go to get it to put it on, I'm just like,
yeah, it like feels good. Yeah, it totally feels good. It's definitely a thing where when my intuition calls me to wear it, I wear it. And it doesn't always, it's definitely not always that I wear it, but when I want to, I do. Yeah.
So let's take a little break away from where we were right now. Let's jump back to the last 2 years. I want to just pose a question, interview Mel a little bit here. Over the last 2 years of all the episodes that we've recorded, and so we've done, 58 that we've released, and another 15 or so that we didn't release.
That's right.
Yeah. What episodes stick out to you? Like, what's the first thought that comes to mind about when you think about the last couple of years of sharing and recording memories, or the virtual montage?
Yeah, the virtual montage. The very first thing instantly that comes to mind is when I shared about my gram. That definitely is, and it was more recent, but that definitely was a very powerful episode where I was sharing about my own spiritual journey. That's a really important episode for me, and I would definitely invite people listening now who haven't heard that to go and check it out. I feel very, very grateful to have had the space to share about my spiritual journey, but specifically about my gram.
And that was very recent, right? That
was
like
recent.
Episode 50 or 51?
Yeah, it was recent.
Yeah.
Yep, totally. I definitely want and I'll share more, but I would love to hear your initial feeling on that.
On that episode or on the
No,
question?
no, 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 not on my episode. What is the one that sticks out, or what ones stick out to you over the last couple of years? Because I have some that I would say from earlier days, but let's maybe bounce back and forth.
Well, that's actually, it's an interesting to turn the question back on myself because I really hadn't thought about it. And I had already kind of looked at the list a little bit. So I feel a little skewed by having referred to it in different ways of sorting or organizing because that's how my brain does things. I'm like, oh, what's the most popular one? Which one was listened to the most?
Nice.
Which one's
And
been
I
the
never,
oldest? You know?
yeah,
Yeah, you never do that.
I never
yeah.
look at that.
Yeah. So, I have to say that the episodes that have had the most impact for me are the times when we've discussed our psychedelic spiritual encounters, and the ayahuasca episode, which is episode number 11, which is one of our most popular episodes ever. That one for me was a really big share, and I feel like having a greater impact in the world, like if we're really going to talk about our spirituality and our deeper knowing and who we are and why and what's changed us and made us into who we are today and continues to push us to grow and develop, I can't ignore the episode on ayahuasca, and any time that we've talked about the psychedelic journey has been very, very powerful for me.
I agree. Partly the episode about my gram is absolutely highlighting that as well. I would also say episode 11, and I'd say it for a slightly different reason, because when we recorded that episode, I had never done any psychedelic ceremonial healing at that point. And I was really in the inquiry and the research trying to learn more because I was believing that it could be a real true healing path for me. And obviously, if you've listened to any of the further episodes, it absolutely has been. And I'm a huge champion of that as an avenue for healing for people who it's right for. And as per every episode, not supporting doing anything illegal or anything like that, but in legal and safe ways, I absolutely support that. But episode 11 was awesome because I was positioned and actually was the person who was unsure and wanted to ask questions as a total non-experienced newbie person, asking someone who has more experience to help educate me. And so my hope is that episode helped other people in a similar place as I was then.
Awesome. We have a second episode that was on psychedelics, and that was episode 29. Just kind of skimming through the list here really quick. And that was another one with a deeper share, kind of having a more expounded view on things. As I scroll the list really quickly and just kind of remind myself of the different titles of the different talks, I cannot help but just hit like ping points right away where I'm like fear, art, love, music, like these like main, I would think these are like pillars in life for me. So the episode on fear, the episode on art, the episode on music, and the episode on self-love all just jump right off the page.
Yeah. I agree. Again, it's kind of boring, my responses today, but it's true. The art episode, I remember that when we finished, we were like, shit, that was like instantaneously over. It was like so quickly over because we were both in such just like earnest, energetic excitement over talking about this thing, this pillar, this piece of the life puzzle, whatever, that really impacted us. That's a big one. I really invite people to listen to that. And the fear episodes where we expand on fear and how we move through that. I think that's super important as well, because that's another way to be like, we're gonna feel the fear doing anything where we're trying to grow, where we're moving toward a goal that we want to achieve but we haven't achieved it yet, when we're putting ourselves out there in a vulnerable way, like all the different ways that fear can show up. I think it's just you feel less alone when you hear people talking about it, you know?
You know, well, our society has bred us to and trained us to have fear as a negative value, that there's something to avoid, that it's something that implies danger, that whenever that there's fear, that we should back away, or we should, not go down this road in whatever aspect that might be. It might not be physical danger. It might just be, shame or embarrassment, or, just a risk of being vulnerable in any way. And so with the conscious recognition that fear is truly an asset, it's an incredibly valuable ally. It is our ally, in which we leverage this tool to, decide which way to make our decisions. And it's not just move away from, it's align ourselves with, understand, recognize, give it the opportunity to speak and hear it and take the value of what it has to offer, and then make a decision taking all factors into consideration. I love fear. I found myself addicted to fear at times.
Yeah.
Right?
Crazy. Yeah. It's definitely a guide. I love that reframe, though, of fear as our ally. That's super, super key. I mean, otherwise definitely. It's just so much harder. Like fear is not failure. Feelings are not failure. I've said that for a long time, and I mean it, and I still believe it. The self-love episode that you pointed to as well, that to me, I remember that one feeling like a vulnerable share, in the sense that I write historically, before certain episodes that we've done where I've shared more personally, is that where the medium where I would always share like that is my writing. And so that's a slightly more removed version of sharing. Like there's a little bit more distance between being seen as a writer and being seen as speaking it real time, authentically, sharing it real time, having emotion come up, stuff like that. And yeah, I feel like I remember that episode feeling brave, because like telling the story where I felt super lonely and needed to hug myself and figure, like all of those things. I mean, you'd have to go back and listen to the episode, but yeah, I remember that feeling consistently, like pretty brave. What's funny, guys, is that I think Jay froze. There he is. What's so amazing, Jay, about what just happened is that I totally shared this amazing long thing, and I knew you were frozen on Zoom. So I'm like, I know he's probably not hearing me. But then as soon as I finished, I was like, what's hilarious is Jay's frozen. And then you came back.
It's a really odd feeling when you see that you have an internet lag, and you're like, okay, how long is this going to go? Is it going to be a 1 second glitch, a 2 second glitch? Should I start speaking? Should I do anything? Should I just stay silent? Right. And at some point I'm just like, I'm just going to sit here awkwardly, and eventually things will start back up again and we'll move. And it's such an uncomfortable moment,
it's
right?
So uncomfortable, because I'm like, gosh. I'm sharing this deep and meaningful shit. Jay can't hear it. He's totally not going to be able to respond. But basically all I said was that that episode of self-love felt brave to me, because I was sharing about things that were very personal to me, that were very painful to me, but critical steps in my growth as a person and learning how to love myself. But that really felt brave, because I was speaking it into a space. And I think, any times that I touch a spot where I cry, I'm way less afraid of doing that now. But it's never the most comfortable to feel like you're that vulnerably seen.
Of course not. I mean, that's another part of our conditioning from the society that we're born into
Yep.
in the West of, hide your emotions and not do not show weakness, or weakness is not okay. And we're all authorized to be weak, allow yourself to be supported, allow yourself to be weak, share, be vulnerable. It's so much more honest and real and accessible, and people will connect if you're vulnerable. And if we pretend like we're impenetrable, then there's nothing to connect to.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Exactly. And it's I believe truly one of the critical components to really leveling up. For people who want to achieve more, we can only go so far as we are loved and seen and heard and held
Yeah.
by ourselves and by those we trust.
So let me spin things on its head a little bit, and let's go the other side. Let's go positive, negative. What have been your moments so far with the show?
Oh my God. Sorry, big yawn. Big yawn, big stretch. My moments. Oh God. I feel like I've said this. I feel like I said this at the year mark. This still makes me cringe. Is listening back and debriefing oneself and hearing when I go back to saying too much, when I go back to saying 80 fucking times a sentence, when I go as I just did it, those things are tough to break. And once you're aware of those types of verbal tics and sharing tics, I feel like it's just like painful to hear it, but it's great because it's helping me. I have more consciousness to those things. And I don't think it's bad to say those things ever, because I think then you kind of sound weird and robotic and not normal. But there's a difference between saying and a little bit versus a lot. So that's sort of still cringeworthy for me. And then, of course, on the side of me as your teammate, in the times that I've fucked up or shown up unprepared, you know what I mean? Like, that sucks. That's the worst, I'm like, oh man, and we're holding each other accountable, and you're reflecting to me what I can't see for myself in those moments. And that's hard, but it's really awesome. But that's definitely hard, but that's a piece of the teamwork that's so important. And I'm 100% on board for. So even though it's like, in the moment, it's really, really great.
I totally understand how it feels on both sides, right? When you flail, like when Mel's like messaging me, like, "Are you gonna join on this call?" And I'm like, "What call? I'm supposed to be. Oh my God, I'm supposed to be online right now. Oh dang, and like freaking out, like completely flailing on attendance or something."
Yeah, we flail. We flail. Yeah. That's what makes the follow through and the fact that we've achieved our 2 years with true consistency really impressive, because everyone flails. Everyone does. And so we have too. And anyway, please say more.
So, well, I cringe. Like, I cringe. So every time I think about the fact that our first 15 or 20 episodes have really crappy audio, I just go, oh my God, I can't believe I allowed that to happen. Like even considered that as a possibility. Like, now when I think about the fact that we just recorded with our, headphone microphone, I'm just like, oh no, it sounds so bad. How could I, as an audiophile, even partially excuse that as being acceptable? And it's just the immaturity, it's just not having made a plan, didn't think things through, just kind of started doing stuff in it. And would I change it? No. Would I go back and do it over again? No. If I start another podcast, will it be like that? Hell no. But would I go back and make Trust the Journey any different? No, it's about the journey. It's about going, okay, let's go ahead and get this started. Here we go, Mel. What do we do?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we're like, I don't know, we got to learn how to publish a podcast and learn how to record it. And we start doing the research and go, oh, we've been doing it wrong.
Yeah.
And I'm good with that. I'm okay with, having to do things over again and over again and over again in order to get better at them, because I understand that the iterative process is how I learn. And it's frustrating. Trust me, it's frustrating, when I have to take the same screw out and put it back in and take it out and put it back in and take it out and put it back in and bust my knuckles doing something over and over and over again, whether that's a metaphor for repeating a show, over years, or whether it's actually building something and taking it apart to get it to fit and work well together. It's the same thing, that refinement of process comes through the practice. So, yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting if I reflect on, I am being systematically stripped of perfectionism. And it's not just trust the journey, that's in life, of course, but it's such a good microcosm of that, where you can and definitely want to operate to a high standard, right? And we hold ourselves to a high standard and higher as we go along. And one of the greatest things to go to the other side of the question that you asked is the teamwork that you mostly lead, like the process, the structure behind the scenes. It's so valuable. I mean, I have definitely done that in the past, but I wasn't bringing that to this project at all, and you really brought that in, and we've followed through on that as well. I mean, certainly, as with everything, imperfectly, but for the most part, we have our debriefs. When we need strategy sessions, we have them, and we have them fairly consistently. We have our annual reviews, and we really reflect. We talk about what and how this is fitting into our personal lives to make sure we're supporting that as first, Yeah.
We need to schedule that because we're coming up on the end of the year.
Yeah, I know. Exactly. Exactly right. And that's the thing, is that I know we will. And that's something I just want to acknowledge and recognize and share. That is one of the most awesome things. And I think that's a critical piece of leadership and building something that has legs that can grow into. So we're on our wobbly toddler legs right now, but right, because we have a process and a facilitated, mutually committed to process for debrief, for growth, for reflection, and for recommitment to goals and action. That's how and why we've been able to do what we've been able to do, and how and why, however this project might evolve in the future, how we'll be able to do that as well. So I think that's one of the most awesome things, on top of me being personally stripped of perfectionism.
I think there's a beautiful irony for both of us in both aspects of aspiring to improve constantly, of wanting to be vulnerable enough to do a debrief, right? To say, okay, here's where I look at my own performance and say, this is where I did poorly. This is where I'm okay with what I did. This is where I'm really happy with what I did. And here's what I'm going to do to change things in order to improve them the next time around. And here's what I'm going to do again in order to ensure that I'm practicing the things that have a positive value. That whole process really, really has a lot in it. And I lost my thought of where I was going completely.
Well, I'm sure if it's awesome, it'll come back. That's what happens. But anyway, that process is so critical. I definitely have done that process in other areas of my life. And I'm bringing it to, for example, to highlight our skydiving, our pro skydiving team, that I am the one leading, that am making sure we do our debriefs, and it's not that Amy or other people wouldn't lead and facilitate a debrief, but I am ferociously committed to that practice and process for our team. And that has been bolstered by how we've done it here in Trust the Journey. And I'm just really appreciative and grateful for that. And that ripple effect is very real.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. I'm super blessed right now. Literally today, I'm doing another session, which I've been involved with Shannon Pilcher. He is doing high performance team development for our company, Flight One, right now. And so it's a leadership team development and high performing team development. And it's really cool. I really like being involved in continued education and learning that is highly focused and targeted specifically to develop skills that are surrounding communication, surrounding effective use of time, development of interpersonal skills, learning to listen, learning to share, learning to work as a team, all these pieces. And a lot of it is reinforcement of things that have popped up repeatedly through the last 25 years of skydiving teams. I mean, I've almost always been on a team over the last 25 years. There's been very few gaps that were quite short where I wasn't actually on a team of some type. And I really value the team environment. And as even though I've always thought of myself as a lone wolf and somebody who's like out there charging on my own path, like cutting my own path through life in whatever way that, can be described. And I've even been made fun of and prodded for my nature of just being somebody who finds their own way. It's this same polarity thing where I like to go figure it out on my own, but doing it as a team is so much more efficient and so much more effective. And there's such an irreplaceable value that cannot be learned by doing something on your own. You have to have that shared environment in order to develop the skills that come from working as a group, as a team.
Yeah. Oh gosh. And I say that too. That's one of the things that Trust the Journey has very much helped me do as well, is that I've been a part of teams as well. But when it comes to this type of creating, I have not. I have for many years, it was just me doing the life coach thing, doing the fucking videos, and I'm all about it. Don't get me wrong. I'm all about it. I'm glad and grateful for all of that time. And it was a true eye opener when I started to shift to really invite people in to collaborate with. This feels like a true collaboration, absolutely a team, and it's so good. It's just so good. But it's also not for the faint of heart, It's not like fucking sunbursts and puppy dogs and rainbows, although it is sunbursts and rainbows for us all the time because that's how we roll and who we are. But yeah, yeah. I'm not even finding words, but it's so valuable. I'm so grateful.
I'm going to throw a statistic on the table because I think for me, those are fun. I like numbers. It motivates me and it allows me to help set goals. And when I have clear goals, then I know which way to go or what to do in order to work towards those goals. And I don't know that this has necessarily been a goal for us as per se. Like if you look at it from the egotistical sense, our audience, the reason why we have or desire to have an audience is for the purpose of connection, so that what we can offer can have as much value as possible, but also so that we can receive. It's an equal directional energy of like what we're putting out is coming back in opportunities for us to have other examples to look at. I mean, there's so many that I could think about inside of our audience, people who reach back to us and have something to say, have something to share, have something to contribute. And you're like, wow, look at these amazing people and how they present and how they're humble and how they're looking for connection and how they're vulnerable and all the things that they're doing to foster the same mission that we've created for ourselves. And the statistic I was going to throw out is our listening. So far in the last 2 years, we're up to over 21,000 plays on our show. And I think that's amazing because I don't feel like I could reach that many people just even fathoming like how many people do I know, how many people could I might reach through my Facebook or through Instagram, you know, like what's the true size of the audience. And just to know that there's been over 20,000 times when somebody out there has been like, I'm going to listen to what Mel and Jay have to say, even if it's only for a few minutes. I think it's amazing. I'm super honored by it. And it motivates me to go, okay, well, if we've been able to have a positive impact on this scale of a group of people already, what can we do to continue to expound upon that? And I invite anybody who's listening to this episode to jump in, offer some feedback. You can reach us directly through our emails. You can reach us at our Instagram account. It's super easy. You can DM us on Instagram. That's one of the best ways to get hold of us. Yeah. And then, of course, we've got our Trust the Journey family. If you just want to jump in and be a member of the family and be like, these guys are on the right path, let's do this together, then you just join on Patreon and we'll include you in the Trust the Journey family, which is such a great group of peeps. I love them.
Yeah, and the Trust the Journey family is so awesome because that wasn't obviously initially a thing. You know, we created that. I can't remember honestly when we created it, but it wasn't instantaneous, that's for sure. And it's relatively new in the last year. And what's cool is that it really gives us all, every one of us in that space, the opportunity to be vulnerable. To create conscious connections, to grow and contribute through our unique and own versions of, you know, vulnerability, humility, trust, and all the things that we say. It's really happening, you know, like that's the actionable experience of those words in a digital space, right? This happens certainly in human space, but yeah, Jay, go ahead.
Well, it's digital for now.
Yeah,
but we definitely have our overlaps already in our lives outside of the podcast sense of, you know, just recording or connecting online. We have lots of layers of overlap inside of these communities. And I very clearly foresee a day when we'll be having some get-togethers and having, you know, our family connecting and growing and sharing, and that's very exciting.
Oh, it's so exciting. And this is one thing that's kind of random, seemingly random, but when we did the Trust the Journey talks at the Parachute Industry Association Symposium. That was cool, even though that's not something we've taken. And obviously in times of COVID, when we can't gather currently in large groups, I see that also as something that's potentially coming for us, where we're going to maybe share and facilitate a bit more in that type of format as well. Having a lot of experience, you know, now facilitating just these open dialogues, these open spaces for sharing. It's really, really cool. I'm excited about all of it. I'm honored. I'm so thankful to you, Jay, and to everyone listening. And yeah, it's just cool. It's just cool. I'm just stoked and happy and grateful to be a part of this creating and connecting. It's just wonderful.
What do you see or what thoughts have you had about the future of the show? So we're 2 years in. We never planned to go past, you know, anything. We didn't make any plan. We just started doing it.
Yeah.
So is there anything that you are dreaming about or see happening in the near future or would like to have happen?
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about it a number of times and we've had just simply too much on our plate to not prioritize this, but I do like the idea of inviting guests into our space because we talk a lot. And we always have a lot to say because we're humans and we're on a human experience and we're always growing. So I think our conversations are, like we've said already, high value for each of us individually and high value hopefully for those listening. My hope in terms of growth of the show and the contribution is to bring people into our space and invite them into the same type of experience with us, of vulnerable sharing, of conscious connecting, and all of those things. So that excites me, even though I don't feel like, oh, we have to do it right now. We have to invite someone on next week. I still feel like that's a beautiful potential idea percolating for us.
Yeah. I echo that sentiment entirely, and I have some ideas for us. Actually, I've been chewing on some thoughts recently, so cool. We'll share those in our
strategy sessions.
Yes. Yeah. Oh,
Any final thoughts, my friend? Congratulations to you and to us.
yeah,
I'm proud of us.
I am too. I guess I do. I'm pretty good at summary statements. I think that's one of my superpowers is
Do
being
it.
able to just kind of step back and take a bunch of things and condense it down into a few things. And I would say so far from the last 2 years of producing and sharing this show, the personal growth that's come out of it for me, the confidence that's come out of it for me, which is still scratching the surface, is still just getting started. I still very much feel like a toddler. But it's immeasurable. So the value is immeasurable, right? The value of just going for it and just getting started and just doing it. And our most listened to show is episode 1, right? It's got the most clicks because that makes sense. But the second most clicks is episode 5. It's first steps and never being ready, right? Just never being ready, but just starting. And we very much did that with this show. And I can very much say that what I've learned from this show is if you want to get good at anything, you need to start doing it. And that means not knowing what you're doing when you start but just start doing it. So I am extremely grateful for the fact that we just stuck our necks out, and I appreciate your willingness to put your neck out and say, I'm going to start doing a podcast with Jay, and we're going to do this podcast, and we haven't even read on how to do a podcast, but we're going to start publishing, like the whole thing that we're just going for it. I'm really honored by that. And I love the honesty and the integrity that comes along from being willing to just go for it and be fearless and not be afraid of doing some really crappy episodes and not be afraid of doing some bad audio and not be afraid of doing something amazing at the same time, because we get very afraid of being amazing. We get very afraid of being incredible. We get very afraid of being a virtuoso. So that practice, the opportunity, the example set by either of us to just show up and to go for it, and the examples that we've had inspire us to do that, that we look up to, the podcasts and the speakers and the leaders and the people out there, that the teammates that we have that inspire us to continue to improve and to aspire and to achieve, all that stuff, things and stuff.
Couldn't have said the things and stuff better, my friend. On that note, I feel like we close it out and onward we go, and family for reals. We say it every time. And I'm a fan of that because we love you. We really, really love you.
We do love you.
And we're stoked you're with us, and keep laughing, keep loving, and keep trusting the journey for reals. 2 years.
2 years. Toddlers.
Toddlers.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, guys.